So my professional background is mostly in risk and data analysis. I majored in political science and my master's was in international security. And I got specializations in network analysis and data analysis more generally. And so I leveraged that into a career in mostly financial sector in data and risk analysis, particularly mortgage risk. Essentially, I deal mostly with courses related to international relations. So with the academic team, we've been kind of realizing that business leaders need grounding in terms of understanding international relations, geopolitics, global governance, and things like this. And for example, this semester we've introduced ones that are more focused on understanding, for example, how governments work, what the policy process is, how that can impact businesses, etc. So my courses are focused on that: international relations, global governance, geopolitics, and its impact on business more generally. What I think Geneva Business School, the added value that it's providing is creating responsible leaders that can understand that the world is changing very rapidly, not just technologically, but also in terms of power balance between states, disruptive technologies that can change the face of warfare, but also how countries interact with one another. And so really it's hard to say just, one or two things, but really it is fundamental to understanding the structure of the world and then being able to act upon it, as a business leader. And so in general, I don't think that it's strictly necessary, of course, to know international relations, but it definitely makes you a more effective business leader, and it makes you a responsible leader. I think students, generally, I find that once they take one of my courses, they want to take the rest, right? Because each course offers like a snippet or a particular view of how international relations might affect business. So for example, we do a course called Globalization and Geopolitics, which is focused on changes in the geopolitical sphere, particularly since the 90s. And so then they start asking themselves, okay, but how can I apply that really as a business leader? How can I take all this knowledge and create business value out of that? And so then we have a course that's exactly that, which is corporate diplomacy. Well, really it's I really take to heart the motto, responsible leaders, because really what we're trying to create is well-rounded individuals that can lead companies in a rapidly changing environment, instead of merely providing the technical expertise that you need to run a company or run a department. Really, it's kind of the difference between understanding statistics or understanding a statistical program specifically. For example, understanding the global situation will allow you to operate regardless of what happens, whereas I think other business schools will really provide you with much more laser-focused expertise on, how to run a business, specifically accounting, things like this. But we provide a much broader outlook that really, I think helps people succeed, particularly in the long run. I think they start to see the effects, and they remember our classes when they're 30, 40, even going on from that when they become industry leaders. People understanding the environment in which they live and reflecting on the things that seem obvious. So, I always ask my students, I'm going to give you an example, so hopefully, because it's a hard question, but I always ask my students, where are you from? And they always answer, I'm from whatever, India or Spain or whatever. And I always ask them, why did you answer with the country? You could have answered anything. I'm from a city or I'm from a region or wherever, but the immediate reference point was the state. And so then, that kind of helps us build into the whole class, which is, what is the state? But reflecting on these questions that seem so very obvious, the most kind of pernicious and damaging power structures are things that are invisible to the naked eye, or that we kind of take for granted, right? So the fact that we live in a state system, or the fact that we define ourselves on the basis of countries and things like this, all seem like very natural and very obvious things, but when you start to reflect on them, maybe they're not so obvious and maybe they're not so natural. In fact, they can be, damaging or can get you into tricky situations.